People were asking me after my audio series, The New Physics of Love, came out, what does physics have to do with love? Or what does physics have to do with relationships? Most of us in our study of physics, we were bored to death by it when we were in high school or college. But there's a whole different viewpoint from the new physics, quantum physics, field theory, than there is from most of the physics that we studied in school, which was more based on that of Isaac Newton, that had to do with the very linear world, that which has to do with the cause and effect. And if you knew enough about the past, you could explain the present and absolutely predict the future. And in that sense, we were just all cogs in a little machine, where we had no free will. We were just there. If we knew enough about the past, you could predict the future, and we're just locked into a whole system, as if we have no capacity to make choices ourselves. Now, the new physics is something entirely different, because the new physics deals with the invisible realm of the world, where there is much more immense power. In fact, one more mind-boggling statement is, in a place called zero-point field, that's a place in the universe where there is the slowest and lowest possible exchange of energy anywhere in the universe. But in that energy, that zero-point field, it has 10 to the 30th or 40th power times more. That means like 10 plus 30 to 40 zeros afterward. That much more power in zero-point field than there is in any physical matter anywhere in the universe, including anything that we call energy-producing devices. Now, what's the implication of that for us? We are all part of the field. We cannot be separate from the field. And if the unified field, which is just dancing energy with encodings of information, is all there is in the universe, can we ever be separate from it? It's just an illusion that we think we're separate from it. And by our recognizing and getting out of this illusion that we're not separate from this field of energy that is so totally powerful, it brings us back out of our positions of powerlessness, which is where most of us fall in most of our relationships. Most of us are constantly seeing ourselves as being done to by somebody else. He said this, she did that, he did the other, the person left me, this person criticized me, this person abandoned me. We're seeing it as if all of this is we are victims. Though we don't like to admit it, and we probably say, no, I'm not a victim, but if we analyze our thoughts for a very short period of time, we'll probably see that so many of them are portraying ourselves as powerless and at the effect of some other outside circumstance. Now, that has a whole lot to do with relationships, doesn't it? Because as long as I'm viewing myself as powerless, then I can never be happy until I get the outside world to change. I can never be happy in a relationship until I fix that person or get them to fix themselves. How often do I find couples coming in to see me and their main purpose is to fix their partner? If you'll fix them up for me, then I'm going to be happy. Of course, they don't realize it as they're doing that. They're making themselves a victim again. They're just rehearsing being powerless, rehearsing being victimized, and setting themselves up to feel more and more misery at the expense of the other person that they call their loved one. That's not a place I want to be, and I don't think it's a place you want to be. Because I think as we can begin to embrace our intrinsic power, whether we call it being part of a zero-point field in terms of physics, or whether we call it being part of the all that is, or part of the divine source or God, as you would call it in spiritual thought, maybe it's the same source, just by different names. If we're part of that source, of all that power and strength, and that power and strength essentially comes out of love. And if I'm in that place, then I don't have to look for somebody else to be the source of love for me. In fact, if I do, I'm stepping out of love and separating myself from love, and again making myself feel like a victim. Instead, I need to see the total supply is inside me. That's who I am. That is my identity. And as I own that as my identity, that gives me immense power. If we did a simple experiment of had somebody just to extend their arm and test the strength, and you have them think a fear thought or just how much they desire love or yearning for love, I could push their hand down as much as they resist. I could push it down with one little finger. On the other hand, if they're thinking a compassionate thought for somebody, just how much they would like to be of help to that person or their care or their loving concern, and I try to press their arm down, I can take both my hands and push as hard as I can. and it's immensely strong. What that little experiment says is, the thing that we think makes us most vulnerable and weak is the thing that makes us stronger. Love that we often think of as weakening and making us at the effect of others and making us vulnerable is actually that which gives us strength. So if we realize that accessing the love that is what we are, and being that presence in the world, being that in every relationship we can, every relationship, no matter how intimate or informal it might be, if I'm being that present, that's the way I find my immense strength. And that, therefore, it's the way I also find my peace, and I find my happiness.